Welcome to Planning, Zoning, and Historical for Monday, October 5th, 2020. This is Councilwoman Kathleen Murphy, and I'm going to call the roll before we take up a motion to meet and get going with our consent and regular agenda. So, Council Lady Allen. I'm going to take that noise as a yes, maybe. Did we, Council Lady Allen? No, it doesn't seem she's here. Okay. Council Lady Benedict will be late. Council Lady, Councilman Bradford.
I'm here.
Councilman Cash.
I'm here.
Evans. Gamble, I think I saw you, right? Yes, see you.
Present.
Hager. No Hager. Hall. O'Connell is out of town. Parker, I think I saw you already.
Yes.
Great. And Rutherford, I saw you at some point.
Here.
Great. Stiles. Okay. Toombs, I think I saw her.
Present.
Great. Van Rees. See
Present.
her. Welch.
Present.
And Withers.
I may have lost your sound.
Withers. Okay. Council Lady Evans, you have your hand raised.
I just wanted to make sure I was marked as present. Thank you.
I got you. We'll run back through the absence. Is Hager on? Hall? Stiles? And Withers. Council Lady Allen.
Did you get Hauser? Saying that I'm here.
Council Lady Hauser, you are not on the planning committee. We're going to go through planning first, and then we'll have our joint committee meeting.
Okay, I thought I was supposed to present something, but that is not my resolution 2025-55 on your agenda?
Yes, Council Lady, I'm just calling roll for the planning committee right now.
Oh, okay, I was thinking affordable was going first, but that's okay. Go ahead.
All right, so Council Lady Allen, I see you. I've got you. I think we are done with the roll at this point. I'm making a motion pursuant to Governor Lee's Executive Order 16 regarding executive meetings as extended by Executive Orders number 34, 51, and 60. I make a motion that this committee meeting agenda constitutes essential business of the Metropolitan Council and meeting electronically is necessary to protect the health, safety, and welfare of Tennesseans in light of the COVID-19 outbreak. I've got a second by Councilman Cash. And if you would like to vote against this motion, meaning that we do not meet electronically, please raise your hand now. Okay, seeing none and hearing no objection, that motion passes and we will be moving forward. I'm going to run through the consent agenda. And I will announce the numbers and the sponsors' names, and then let me know by raising your hand if anything needs to come off the consent agenda. So starting with item number 2, RS 2020-555 by Council Lady Hauser. That's on the consent agenda for approval. Item number 3, RS 2020-574 by O'Connell is on the consent agenda for approval. Bills on second reading. We have item number 6, BL 2020-452 by Council Lady Toombs on the consent agenda. Item number 7, BL 2020-453 by Council Lady Roberts is on the consent agenda. And then bills on third reading, item number 8, BL 2020-364 by O'Connell is on consent to defer one meeting. I have signed on to that bill. BL 2020-385 by Councilman Roden will be deferred to the first meeting in December on our consent agenda. That takes us through. So please raise your hand if any of those items need to come off of the consent agenda. Council Lady Allen.
Actually, I'm just making a comment. We now have item numbers on the general agenda as well as item numbers on your agenda, and I just want to go on record as saying perhaps we can try to reconcile those numbering systems or come up with a different way to do this. So I don't have any I want to take off, but I just wanted to make that statement. Thank you.
Yes, I understand that this is going off of our committee agenda report. I'm happy to discuss that later, but I don't foresee switching the numbers up because they are separate agendas, and I think that might get confusing. We've had agenda items on here for a while, and I'm glad. And I've asked for agenda items for a few years on our council agenda, so I'm glad we finally were able to actually use agenda items. But Council Lady Allen, if you would second my motion for the consent agenda, I would appreciate it.
I will do that.
Thank you. If you would like to vote against the consent agenda, oh wait, I'm sorry. Let me read through them. Now that we've got a motion. So consent agenda RS 2020-555, Hauser, Toombs, Murphy, and others approves an option agreement between the Metro government and Jay Patel to purchase property owned by Jay Patel located at 0 Old Hickory Boulevard. Again, on consent agenda for approval. Item number 3, BL 2020-574, O'Connell, Murphy, and Nash amends ordinance BL 2023-57 to authorize Metro government to relocate an existing water main for property located at 1221 Broadway. On consent agenda for approval. Bills on second reading on consent. We are at item number 6, BL 2020-452, Toombs, Murphy, Nash, Parker. Approves a participation agreement between the Metro Water and Sewer Services and Highview Flats LLC and authorizes the Director of Public Property to transfer to Highview Flats LLC and a small portion of parcel of property. Sorry, that's worded funny. Located at 700 East Trinity Lane. Then that's on consent for approval. Item number 7 on your agenda, BL 2024-53 by Roberts, Murphy, and Nash authorizes Metro to accept public sanitary sewer main and sanitary sewer manhole and easements for property located at 5800 Centennial Boulevard. Items on third read and item number 8, BL 2023-64 by Councilman O'Connell and Murphy, changes 9.39 acres from IR to OG zoning for properties located at 309, 401, and 407 Driftwood Street. That is on consent to defer one meeting. Item number 9 on your agenda, BL 2023-85 by Councilman Roden, applies 1.34 acres of a neighborhood landmark overlay district for property located at 3060 Lebanon Pike. That is on consent to be deferred to the first meeting in December, taking us to the end of our consent calendar, which has a motion and a second before us. Council Lady Allen, do you have any comments on consent agenda before we vote?
No, I do not anymore. Thank you.
Okay. Your hand is still up, Berkeley. Thank you. If you would like to vote against the consent agenda, please raise your hand now. Seeing none and hearing none, the consent agenda is approved. That takes us to item number 4 on your planning agenda, BL 2020-450, Suara and a slew of others. Summarizes, changes the name of 5th Avenue North and Opry Place to Representative John Lewis Way North, and by changing the name of 5th Avenue South to Representative John Lewis Way South. I am moving for approval. Councilman Withers, will you second my motion?
Yes.
Thank you. And with that, I'm going to move the amendment on the bill. Councilman Withers.
Motion.
Thank you. Councilor Suara, would you like to tell us about, we are on the amendment, if you'd like to tell us about your process and the community involvement and where we are on this bill, and then we'll
Thank you.
vote on the amendment.
Thank you. Can you all hear me?
Yes, ma'am. The floor is yours.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate that. The process so far is that we've been able to have about 3 community meetings. I've also went to one neighborhood meeting, and so far, majority have been in support of this project. A lot of people are excited. There's a lot of ideas on even what the celebration will look like. So this amendment basically came out of some of the feedback and in a way to make the process or the transition very easy, especially for businesses. So the amendment would change the effective date to 1st of January. The idea is that most businesses would do their annual reports with the Tennessee Secretary of State between January and April. Also, if they have to change their addresses with the IRS, they can do it with their tax return. It's also important to note that some of the information that I found out in this process is that the changing of name for any businesses or anyone involved, everyone has a whole year to actually change their name so they can still use their stationery and everything that they have for a year. So by changing it to January 1st, 2021, that gives everyone until January 2022 for the full implementation. We've also been able to make sure that individuals impacted do not have to contact the USPS to change their address, neither do they have to contact NES. All of this will be done automatically for them as a way to ensure it's smooth transition. So that for that reason, I move approval of my amendment.
Thank you, Council Lady. I appreciate you letting us know about the part of the effective date and how that would affect the businesses on the street. That might be something that we look at for standard language whenever we change street names every so often. That sounds like it helps out property owners on the street. So right now we have the amendment properly before us, motioned and seconded. So if you would like to vote against the amendment, please raise your hand or speak now.
Councilmember Murphy, this is Hannah Zeitlin. We're actually going to need a roll call vote on this stuff today in committee. That's just what the executive order requires now.
I am so sorry. I forgot about that. Hannah, do I need to go back on the consent agenda and roll call?
I think that might be best. I was going to say we could just read off who we have noted as I.
Okay, what I'm going to do is I'll finish up this bill, the amendment and the bill as amended, and then we'll go back and I'll roll call the consent agenda. I'm sorry about that, committee. So we are on the amendment to BL 2020-450, hearing an explanation from the sponsor. Roll call. Council Lady Allen. Council Lady Benedict.
Aye.
Councilman Bradford.
Aye.
Councilman Cash.
Aye.
Evans.
Aye.
Gamble.
Aye.
Hager. Hall. Murphy votes aye. O'Connell. Parker.
Aye.
Rutherford.
Aye.
Stiles. Toombs.
Aye.
Van Rees.
Aye.
Welch.
Aye.
Withers.
Aye.
Thank you. We are on the bill as amended. I will move the bill as amended. Councilman Withers for the second.
Please.
Thank you. Now for the roll call. This is the BL 2020-450 as amended. Allen.
Aye.
Benedict.
Aye.
Bradford.
Aye.
Cash.
Aye.
Evans.
Aye.
Gamble.
Aye.
Hager. Hall. Murphy votes in the affirmative. O'Connell. Parker.
Aye.
Rutherford.
Aye.
Stiles. Toombs.
Aye.
Van Rees.
Aye.
Welch. Did we lose you, Council Lady Welch?
Aye.
Thank you. Councilman Withers.
Aye.
Thank you. Council Lady Suara, your bill as amended passes through our committee. Moving on to going back to the consent agenda. So what we just voted on, we're going to do that again as a roll call. So if we, Hannah, do I need to do the motion again too? or can I just announce it?
Just say, yeah, move approval of the consent agenda and then vote. I think that might work best.
Just for fun, I am moving the
Okay.
consent agenda again, and Councilman Withers. That would be a second from Councilman Withers. All right, Allen.
Aye. Aye.
Bradford.
Aye.
Cash.
Aye.
Evans.
Aye.
Gamble.
Aye.
Hager. Hall. Murphy votes affirmative. O'Connell. Parker.
Aye.
Rutherford.
Aye.
Stiles. Toombs.
Aye.
Van Reese.
Aye.
Welch.
Aye.
And Withers.
Aye.
Thank you. Our consent agenda is passed for the second time. All right. Item number 5 on your agenda, BL 2020-451 by Councilman Pulley, amends BL 2018-1137 with respect to the retention of easements and abandons alley number 1715 between Crestmore Road and the southern property line of the Calvary Methodist Church at 3701 Hillsborough Pike. I will move for approval. Councilman Withers for the second, please.
Second.
Thank you. I'm moving the amendment by Councilman Pulley. Councilman Withers.
Second.
Thank you. Councilman Pulley, would you like to let us know what's going on with your massive intersection here?
Yes, I'd be more than happy to. Thank you, Madam Chair. This bill amends the previous bill that deals with, as it's stated in your agenda, retention of easements and essentially abandons an alley that's directly behind a couple of businesses leading from Crestmore into Calvary Methodist Church and giving some access to the church and those businesses. What's going to happen is we're going to realign the intersection, and the CVS is going to move their existing property to the property on which this alley is currently located, along with some other businesses. And in order to construct their property, they're going to need to move that alley. So they have to abandon this one and move it to the west, so that there will still be an alley there for access to the church and access to the one existing business that will remain. So all of the affected property owners have signed off on the alley abandonment. And what the purpose of the amendment would be, there's a storm pipe currently located underneath the alley, and the infrared equipment that Public Works has is unable to detect whether this is an active or an inactive storm pipe. So the amendment just basically covers Public Works to the extent that it states that if it's an active pipe, then CVS is going to have to reroute it once they tear up the alley. And if it's not, they've got to get rid of it. So that's the extent of what we're doing.
Thank you, Councilman Pulley, for that thorough explanation. And with that, we are on your amendment, and we will call the roll. Allen.
Aye.
Benedict.
Aye.
Bradford.
Aye.
Cash.
Aye.
Evans.
Aye.
Gamble.
Aye.
Hager. Hall. Murphy votes in the affirmative. O'Connell. Parker.
Aye.
Rutherford.
Aye.
Stiles. Toombs.
Aye.
Van Reese.
Aye.
Welch.
Aye.
Withers. Withers.
Aye.
Thank you. The bill as amended is before us, and I will move for approval. Councilman Withers for the second, please.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call on BL 2020-451 as amended. Allen.
Aye.
Benedict.
Aye.
Bradford.
Aye.
Cash.
Aye.
Evans.
Aye.
Gamble.
Aye.
Hager. Hall. Murphy votes in the affirmative. O'Connell. Parker.
Aye.
Rutherford.
Aye.
Stiles. Toombs. Councilor
Aye.
Van Reese,
Aye.
Welch,
Aye.
Withers.
Aye.
Thank you. With that, Councilman, your bill as amended is approved. Moving to B,
Thank you
item
very
number
much.
6 on your agenda, BL 2024-52, Toombs and others. Approves a participation agreement. Oh, I'm sorry, that was on consent and we've done it. Great. Moving on, that is everything. So with that, I would like to invite affordable housing to join us. And Hannah, do we need to, I put it on the agenda just in case, do we need to recall my, the planning committee attendance and then let Council Lady Zwara call her committee attendance and then do the motion again?
I think that we can just go into the Affordable Housing Committee attendance and then move forward.
Great. I will, Council Lady Zwara, you have the floor for your attendance.
Thank you, Councilmember Murphy. For the Affordable Housing Committee members, I have Allen,
Here.
Hauser,
Here.
Mendez,
Present.
Parker, Sepulveda,
Here.
Sledge,
Here.
Swara is here, Taylor,
Present.
Toombs,
Present.
Welsh.
Present.
All right, that's everyone. Thank you.
And Hannah, do they need to do the electronic meeting motion?
No, I think that we can just move forward.
Okay. All right. Council Lady Zwara, if you would like to introduce your guest from NES for a statement.
Okay. Thank you. We have Mr. Carroll from NES, and I want everyone to know that Mr. Carroll will not be taking any questions, but we invited him to just be able to tell us where NES is with regards to disconnection and to provide information for you to share with your constituents as well as the viewing audience where things are right now. We will be inviting him back another time for questioning, but at this point I invite Mr. Antonio Carroll to say something about where we are with NES. Thank you.
Good afternoon, council members, and thank you for the invitation to Councilman Swara. I just wanted to give you all a brief update. Some of you all may have received my email regarding NES's connection process, collection processes. And so since June, NES has been actively encouraging our customers to apply for available bill assistance. And all customers with past due balances in June got an email or a letter explaining that NES's 12-month installment plan, and it included a list of agencies where they could seek assistance. Now, NES continues to provide this information to our customers as part of our messaging. This weekend, at the request of council, we updated our messaging to include that financial assistance from the $10 million Metro CARES funding is starting to get distributed, but it can take grantees up to 1 to 2 weeks to process an individual's application. And so we're encouraging our customers to call 211 to get this assistance. Now, NES will continue to work with customers as we always have as we resume our collection process, and disconnects remain suspended until November. In the meantime, we'll be doing some auto dial calls to our customers to help them with payments as well as assistance or further arrangements as needed. And as always, council members, if you all have questions about this, or if your constituents have questions, please feel free to reach out to me directly, and I'm glad to help. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carroll. And so customers should call 201 for information on where to get assistance, and NES will be suspending disconnection until November.
That is correct.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Murphy.
Thank you, Council Lady Zwara and Antonio. We always appreciate your information. So we only have one bill on our joint agenda here today. It is Substitute Bill BL 2020-224. It is on second reading. And what I'm going to do is I'll go ahead and make the motion to have the bill properly before us. I'll ask Councilman Withers to second that for our planning committee and then hand it over to Council Lady Suara to entertain their motions. And then I'm going to ask Hannah or Mr. Cooper to explain I know that this bill has been substituted and amended, and we've discussed it a number of times. If our legal team will explain where the summary of the bill now, and then summarize we have 3 amendments and a second substitute filed. And then also if the legal counsel will let us know if any of those conflict with each other, and then we can go to the councilman for some explanation, if that is all acceptable with everyone. So I will make a motion to have the bill before us. Councilman Withers.
Second.
Thank you. Council Lady Suara, you have the floor for your committee's motions.
And I'll make the motion to have the bill before the Affordable Housing Committee. And if Vice Chair
Second.
Parker will second, okay. Taylor second. All right. That works too.
Yes, perfect. So let's go to if Mr. Cooper's on the line or Ms. Zeitlin, if y'all will give us a summary of where we are with everything, and then we'll go to Councilman Taylor.
This is Hannah. Hang on one second. Sorry, I'm trying to get all my screens together. So where we are with the bill currently as it stands is we have substitute BL 224. So as substituted, this amends Chapter 1122 of the Metro Code to require landlords to provide notice to tenants prior to the sale of the leased property. So it requires landlords to provide a minimum of 90 days written notice to tenants prior to the listing of the property, and then notify tenants within 5 days of a binding sale agreement of the closing date and the anticipated date by which a tenant would need to vacate. And then that vacate date would need to be no less than 30 days from the date of notice of the closing date. There are 3 amendments. Amendment 1 is from the sponsor, Councilman Taylor. So that would reduce the 90-day notice to 30 days notice. It would not, the provisions would no longer apply to properties that have 100 rental units or more. And then it would not apply to properties where a written rental agreement addresses a required notice period. And it would also only provide prospectively to lease agreements entered into on or after January 1st, 2021. And then it would mirror some language from the state law about the right of access for a landlord to the leased premises, which requires 24 hours notice prior to entry. And then we have 2 amendments from Councilmember Johnston. The first would delay the effective date for 365 days following the enactment of the ordinance. Then Amendment 3, also by Councilmember Johnston, would exempt properties where the property owner and the tenant have entered into a residential lease that complies with the provisions of the Tennessee Uniform Residential Landlord and Tenant Act. There's also a second substitute from Councilman Nash. Is that being offered?
Councilman Nash, do we need to have that explained, or are you pulling it? Councilman Nash, you are on mute. Councilman Nash, you are still on mute.
Here we go. I had a couple of questions for the sponsor first, if I could do that before I pull it.
Why don't we have Hannah, why don't you go ahead and finish and just give us a brief overview of that second substitute. We'll go to Councilman Taylor for the explanation of his legislation, and then Councilman Nash, I can call on you first. Would that will that work for everyone?
It works for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Council Lady Zeitlin. Ms. Zeitlin, will you continue your overview, and then we'll go to Councilman Taylor.
Sure. This second substitute from Councilman Nash, it rewrites the bill. Instead of providing notice prior to listing the leased premises for sale, it would require the new owner to provide notice to tenants that the property is under new ownership within 7 days of the closing date. And then there's certain other requirements like, the information that would be needed to be provided.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Zeitlin. Councilman Taylor, you have the floor for your, if you can give us a legislative history of your intent and what you feel we need to know to get moving.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. We've been talking about this quite some time. This bill, I think Ms. Zeitlin did a great job explaining the bill and the amendments. Again, this bill is to provide opportunity for tenants to be aware of impending sale or an intent to sell, rather, of a property that they call home. We have some amendments, and I'd like to go ahead and move my amendment, if possible, Councilmember Suara.
Oh, you know what? Before we do that, I'm sorry to interrupt, Councilman Taylor. Ms. Zeitlin, I wanted to ask if any of the amendments conflict or cancel each other out. It sounds like if the second substitute would, which we'll get to Councilman Taylor, we'll get to Councilman Nash in a moment. But just so we aren't recommending multiple motions or multiple amendments, Ms. Zeitlin, could you run through that real quick? Do any of them conflict with each other?
So, yes, kind of in, I guess, a little bit of an odd way. So I'll explain. So the second substitute would rewrite the bill so that
Point of order. Councilman Taylor has the floor, and I've moved an amendment. Are we not on that amendment moval? I mean, we're by rule. I've already moved the amendment. We haven't had a chance to second it because we were stopped in that process. So.
Sure, you can, Council Lady Suara, if you'd like to carry your side of the committee.
Yes, sure. If I can have a second to the motion and the amendment, please.
Second.
All right. We're trying to make this as effective as possible and discuss it both at the same time. So I don't know how this works, but Councilmember Taylor, would you discuss your amendment, please?
Yes, thank you. So the amendment that we have for the bill is to currently as written is 90 days. We want to move that to 30 days. And a lot of this is we've discussed, and actually in the Affordable Housing Committee, we have approved this, but we've added a few things, and it has had a request from Councilmember Hauser to be re-referred. Nevertheless, so moving from 90 days to 30 days to have a written notice to the residential tenants. Then also section that doesn't apply to units or properties that have 100 rental units or more. And the reason that we have that is that there is a much higher percentage of individuals renting in lower number units. The second portion is with a rental agreement or written lease. They will not apply as well because there is a safety mechanism for renters with the Tennessee law, state law, in regards to a lease. So if the renter has a lease, the new owner has to take that lease over. So we do have a safety mechanism there. However, if you do not have a lease, it automatically goes to month, where there is not necessarily a safety mechanism in place. And that then will have, if you are on that month to month, you only have 30 days to receive notice, and you have 30 days to give notice that you will not renew a lease. So that adds some protection there. And then also, there may be some problems with individuals that are on a lease now, or individuals that are in month to month now and working to get that turned over. So what we would like to do is to have this effective January 1, 2021. Everyone else that has a lease up until that date will be grandfathered in completely how we have the law as of now, that this law doesn't exist. And then also, pursuant to Tennessee Code annotated for adding that information there. This law has not changed in quite some time. And so we wanted to mirror that to show that, to share some information in this bill of how it is a bit different from the Tennessee Code annotated law.
Thank you. Any discussion?
So we were going to go to Councilman Nash. We also have Courtney, Council Lady Johnson, and Council Lady Allen in the queue. So Council Lady Suara, I think do we have that motion properly before us? And so we can discuss that. And we can go to Councilman Nash on the Amendment 1 if he so chooses on Amendment 1. Well, you don't have to, Councilman Nash. I had just said that we would come to you after Councilman Taylor.
I guess my question would be for Councilman Taylor. I know I had been contacted by a Miss Katie Bailey that was working with a group of realtors, and she had mentioned that you were working out things, and I have not heard back from her. Do you feel like you were able to address their issues?
Yeah, thank you. So the realtors have sent over a letter of neutralization. So the realtors are neutralized with the changes within this amendment that I'm presenting today. The realtors have been okay with Ms. Katie Lane Bailey and the Apartments Association. They haven't sent over any neutralization information. But I do know the lease conversation was big because generally the majority of their ownership require, if not a 12-month lease, at least a 6-month lease. And if you want to pay month to month, it's still a signed lease. But that's generally going to be for individuals that have a reason and they understand why they're on a month-to-month lease.
Councilman Nash, you have the floor.
Given that I feel that he is, and I applaud him for what he's trying to do here. I support it. I think he's probably worked out the issue that I was concerned about. So I'm going to go ahead and withdraw my substitute.
All right. Thank you. Council Lady Johnson.
So I appreciate what, and I know I haven't moved my amendments yet, but it's all sort of intertangled. So I don't know how this is supposed to work without being out of order or whatever. So do you have to vote on his amendment before I move mine, or because they sort of conflict? And we can just talk about how they conflict.
So Council Lady, what we'll have to do is the Affordable Housing Committee has a motion and a second on that. So we are in discussion of motion in their committee. There'll have to be a motion from the Planning Committee as well before the Planning Committee can vote on it. You're welcome to ask our legal counsel for any questions you have at this time.
Okay, well, I appreciate the amendment that Councilman Taylor put forth that's made, several different improvements. One thing that I disagree with, and it's what my amendment changes, is takes out the 100 units or more. I feel like if you're in compliance, regardless if you've got 1 unit or 10 units or 50 units or 4,000 units, if you're in compliance, you're in compliance. That just exempting those that have 100 units or more, to me, is sort of arbitrary and it defeats the purpose. I mean, I think the purpose of the bill is to really kind of focus on a very small number of people that are affected, that don't have proper leases, that don't protect them. And so at that point, if we do have landlords that are doing the right thing, they're in compliant with state law, and there is a lease that protects those renters, that they all should be exempted outside, regardless of the number of units that they maintain.
Thank you. Council Lady Johnson, any other comments at this time?
No.
All right. Council Lady Allen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not sure when the appropriate time to bring my question up is as well. Two things. One, I have sent by way of Ms. Zeitlin a summary of the things that I've seen in the Uniform Tenant and Landlord Act, and just wanted to make people aware that that's out there, which is just sort of helpful to be able to see in one place what is already covered. And then in yellow, I have highlighted the protections that would be added by this proposed bill. And then just to further complicate the issue, when we first started talking about this, it was about inappropriate termination of leases. And so I have a bill that I have introduced that's on first reading that would specifically deal with that, which may or may not be complementary to that. And I will decide how to deal with it sort of once I see how this goes through. But I also just wanted to bring up that piece of information, that there's another bill trailing this that would simply say if there's not a lease, that already spells out a notification of at least 60 days before termination or intent not to renew a lease, that we would require that. And also to specifically spell out that if you sell property, that the lease goes with it, which it is contract law, but it's not spelled out anywhere. So I think that's more a point of information than any kind of motion. But I hope this was the right point to make it in.
Thank you, Council Lady Allen. Council Lady Johnson, your hand is still raised. Do you have any further comment or question?
No, I just don't know how to use the computer anymore. Sorry.
Guess that's why we're going in person tomorrow night. So do we have any, we have the affordable housing has a motion in a second before then. Is there any further discussion on the bill or on the amendment 1 by Councilman Taylor?
Yes, thank you. So
I'm sorry, Councilman Taylor, I was asking for more discussion if there was any. Council Lady Johnson, your hand's raised.
Yeah, I would just ask if that would be a friendly amendment to Councilman Taylor's amendment to take out the part where it goes, only exempts those. I see him nodding his head, but I don't know what that means. If he would take that part out to exempt people, landlords that are in compliance now, regardless of the number of units that they maintain.
Councilman Taylor, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you. So yes, the 100 units would be friendly. In regards to the ERLTA, currently right now, if you are a landlord, you should be filing ERLTA, and if you are not filing ERLTA, you will be out of code right now as of today. And so in that portion of the bill, if we add that, I feel that we lose any protections that we seek with the current bill because it's not working as we speak right now. And so adding the ERLTA designation would not be friendly. Removing the 100 would be friendly, because if you have one unit or thousands of units and you're not doing the right thing, you're not doing the right thing. I agree.
Council Lady Johnson, are you wishing to make a verbal amendment to, or on the floor? I guess Ms. Zeitlin, are we able to do that today?
Yeah, I don't know how this works, but yeah, I would like to remove the language from his amendment that specifies the 100 units or more, to take that out if that's friendly for him.
Ms. Zeitlin, is Councilman Taylor able to strike that from his amendment?
This is Hannah. So it would have to be a late amendment. I think it could be done. The rules would have to be suspended on the floor.
Okay.
Okay.
So with that, Councilman Taylor, do you want to make any comments about a commitment or activity you would like to do before tomorrow night in that regard?
Yeah, and I'll say I'm not in rush to get this specifically with late file. if we could move the amendment today with a one meeting deferral to then add a new amendment to strike that 100 units, I'd be willing to do that into the next meeting.
So, Councilman, what I just heard you do is you are rescinding your motion. Well, I guess you are keeping your motion to approve and then would like to make a second motion to defer one meeting.
That's correct.
Okay. So what we'll need to do is you already have the motion on Amendment 1, and it has been seconded. And so, Council Ladies it sounds like y'all, if you want to call the roll on that for your committee, and then we can go back to Councilman Taylor for a motion.
Yes, we'll do that and we'll take the vote. But I do have a question for Ms. Zetlin. Before I do that.
Sure, Council Lady, you have the floor. You are co-chair.
Thank you. Ms. Zetlin, what I heard is that Councilwoman Johnston can do an amendment on the floor by suspending the rule tomorrow to add the friendly amendment. So if we approve if we vote on the amendment today, then tomorrow she can suspend the rule and do the friendly amendment to take that 100 units out. Is that not what you were saying? Is there a need for a deferral? Or can we not do it like that? I mean, so that we can keep this moving. It's been going on for too long. So, but if it's just a friendly amendment, and if it's something that we can move the amendment today and then on the floor tomorrow, suspend the rule and then add the friendly amendment on the floor. Is that an option?
So that's an option. It's really up to you all if you want to proceed that way. I'll tell you the danger, I guess, with having a late amendment is that you do have to suspend the rules. And so keep in mind that if two people raise their hands, then the rules can't be suspended. So it's not necessarily a guarantee that a late amendment will go through. So I guess that's kind of one reason why a deferral may be a better option, but it's certainly up to the committee and the sponsor.
All righty. We'll go ahead and take the roll call on the amendment and get that settled, and then we'll leave it to the sponsor on how he wants to proceed with the friendly change, okay? And so for Affordable Housing Committee members, I'm looking for the list, if you give me a minute. All right, Allen?
Aye.
Hauser? Mendes?
Aye.
Parker?
Sorry, Hauser is yes. I couldn't get to the mute button properly.
Thank you. Parker?
Parker is yes.
Sepulveda?
Yes.
Sledge?
Aye.
Suara is yes. Taylor?
Aye.
Toombs?
Aye.
Welsh?
Aye.
All right, we recommend approval. All in favor, no one against. Thank you.
Councilman Taylor, would you like to, what would you like to do?
Thank you. So I would like to move as approved with discussion on the floor due to Councilmember Suarez's comments, and would like to speak to council. So speak to the chair in regards to that. So I would like to move for approval with discussion. Well, let me ask, Ms. Zeitlin, if I am to want to defer, because I'm thinking about the late file amendment, if I want to defer, can I not later, if I want to defer later, can I then make a motion to defer if I ask to move for approval?
You can move for approval in committee and then defer on the floor like tomorrow night if that's the question.
Okay. So if in conversation, if it leans that we do not, we definitely do not want to do a late file amendment, can I remove or retract the motion to approve today in committee, then ask for a deferral.
So just to repeat the question, are you asking if you move approval in committee today and then tomorrow on the floor, could you would need to re-refer it to the committee? You'd have a committee approval tomorrow on the floor, and there wouldn't be a way to undo that committee approval, but you could re-refer it to committee.
Okay. So,
Councilman Taylor, what would you like to do at this point?
So, Ms. Zeitlin, so if I move for approval right now in committee and in discussion, I would like to retract that approval and move in committee for deferral. Is that possible?
Today in committee?
Yes.
If it's deferred, you can move for deferral in committee and then debate that motion. And if you in the course of debate would like to, you change your mind and you want to move for approval or vice versa, you can rescind your motion in committee.
Okay, perfect.
And then make a new motion.
Perfect. Thank you. So at the moment, I'd like to move for approval with discussion.
Okay, so we have the bill before us. The bill has been moved for approval as amended. We can continue to have discussion on that motion. Councilman Taylor, if you will be okay with us continuing to discuss, because we do have two other amendments before us. Council Lady Johnson, we'll go to you, and then we'll go to Council Lady Allen.
So is this on my, am I moving my amendment right now?
You are not on my committee, but I will move I can move, which amendment would you like to move?
The one that exempts the first one, not the 365-day one.
So I believe that's amendment number 3. Is that correct, Ms. Zeitlin?
Correct. That's amendment number 3.
I'll move amendment number 3. Councilman Withers, will you second?
Second. Sorry about that.
Thank you. Council Lady Johnson, you are on your amendment.
Okay, thank you. Let me pull this up. All right. So I'm going to repeat that I appreciate what Councilman Taylor said to Chief, which is to protect renters from unscrupulous property owners that are in position to take advantage of those renters who do not have a lease that protects them. Fortunately, the vast majority of renters in Davidson County are protected in the event of a property sale because they have a written agreement between property owners that complies with the legal provisions of the Tennessee Uniform Residential Landlord and Tenant Act. Specifically, it's Tennessee Code annotated 66-28-101. Included in the protections for a tenant is that if an apartment building or property is sold to a new owner, the tenant's written agreement, their lease, is fully protected. The landlord cannot evict the tenant and cannot raise the rent price. In fact, the new property owner cannot make any changes to the tenant's lease because the tenant's lease continues fully unaffected all the way through the agreement term covered by state law. My amendment exempts a good law-abiding landlord from this ordinance, thereby more specifically targeting those unscrupulous landlords, which is the goal of this legislation in the first place. This ordinance, without this amendment, of creating public doubt about the legal status of a clearly legal contract. In an historic time of stress and anxiety, we have to be careful that we don't create unnecessary stress. Please think about the tens of thousands of tenants who have a legally solid written lease. Do not give them doubts that they are at risk when we know very clearly that written agreements that comply with the Landlord-Tenant Act have them fully covered. And I would just ask that you support this amendment.
Okay, so we are on Amendment 3 by Council Lady Johnson. Is there discussion on Amendment 3? Council Lady Allen, would you like to speak on Amendment 3?
Just one question. Can someone tell me where in the Uniform Landlord-Tenant Act it specifically makes that statement about the lease?
Ms. Zeitlin?
I'm sorry, what was the statement that you were asking about?
Ms. Allen, Councilor Allen.
The statement that Councilmember Johnson has made. I mean, I've summarized what I've seen in the URL here about what protections it provides. I mean, I think just laws in general say contracts are binding, but I don't see anything that specifically talks about sale, transferring with the property, or.
I guess, Council Lady Allen, would you like Council Lady Johnson to answer?
Sure.
Council Lady Johnson, take the floor.
Yeah, I don't actually have that information. It's just if you've got no sale of a lease, no sale of a property negates the lease that's in place ever. And so somebody with more of a legal mind can look through that code to find that. Maybe it is Hannah. I'm not exactly sure. But you know, I think the goal of this legislation is to protect people that don't have leases. But the law is very clear in that if you have a written lease, that lease stays intact regardless of who owns the actual property.
Council Lady Allen.
Okay, well, if someone could get that to me later, I would appreciate it.
All right.
Councilmember, this is Hannah. Oh,
Go ahead, Hannah.
I was just going to say, so I believe this comes from case law. I might be able to pull up the case right now, if you just would bear with me for a second. But I don't believe that it's so. Just to kind of clarify. So the question is whether a new owner could terminate a lease, or whether it would automatically terminate upon a new owner. So traditionally, under common law, the lease continues with the new owner.
Right.
And I believe it's case law, and I might be able to pull a case with that, but it's not in, I don't believe it's in a statute anywhere.
Okay, that is what I wanted to understand. I don't need to know the specific case, but I think it's important for us to understand that it's case law. It's not ULRTA that's been set up. So I'm not sure they're referring to it as Councilmember Bradford has said, Taylor has said, that's not necessarily the issue. The issue is people who are not following any law or case law in the RTA. That's all.
Thank you, Council Lady Allen. And Council Lady Sarara.
Thank you. I was going to point out the same thing that Councilmember had pointed out, but I also wanted to let us be mindful of what we're trying to do with this bill. Just this week alone, I had 2 people call me offering cash for my house. I wanted to know if I would sell my house for cash on the spot, just to answer some questions about whether I've had damages or things like that. We're in a very serious time, and people are selling, and it's good for people to be able to sell and get the cash. I'm not against landlord being able to turn their cash over for cash, but the idea is to make sure that there's enough notice given to the people that are living in those property so that they can find an alternative housing, so they can make arrangements for their children, so they can make sure they do things with their school, so they won't have to put a down payment on a new place while they're paying rents on their old place that's about to be sold. So that's what we're trying to do here, and I think that it's important for us to not lose sight of that. And I don't believe that just a regular lease does that, because there's nothing in that lease that talks about the sale of the property. So I wanted to put that forward to everyone, that is the intent of this. We've had cases of people being turned out of their home where they just find out that the place where they're living is being sold, and they had no idea. So that's what the study says notice before sale is supposed to do, to be able to protect vulnerable citizens amongst us. So thank you.
Thank you, Council Lady Zawara. Going back through the queue, Council Lady Johnson, we still have your hand raised on your Amendment 3.
Sorry.
All right, Councilman Taylor on Amendment 3.
Thank you. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you again. And I mentioned this earlier as a sponsor of the bill. I would not receive Amendment 3 with the ULTA language as friendly. I believe, and I mentioned earlier that with ULTA, currently right now, if you're a landlord in the state of Tennessee, which includes Davidson County and the city of Nashville, you should be following ULTA. If you're not following ULTA right now, as we speak, before this bill came before us, you are out of code. And so, and I agree 100% that there is a safety and protection mechanism within IRLTA that says if you have a written lease, then the new owner assumes that written lease. But if you have a 30-day lease or month-to-month lease, that new owner will assume that lease and has 30 days to then not renew the lease. And so and that's one of the reasons I wanted to add into my amendment was that if we have a written lease, that does put protections in place for the tenant, and this hopefully will move for more individuals, more landlords to have written leases in place for those tenants. So in the event that the property does sell, that they have to take over a new lease. And then I think Councilmember Allen sent over a really good piece of information today, is that many leases generally have anywhere from 30 to 90 days that will let you know if you are going to renew a lease or not. But with the IRLTA Act, adding that information, if you are a landlord as of today, right now, that you should be following that anyhow. And then, to be quite honest, there's no reason for this bill.
Councilor Johnson on Amendment 3.
So if you're talking about people in a 30-day lease, those aren't protected very much anyway. So if you got it, so if someone got into a situation where the landlord wanted to sell the property, had a 30-day lease, month-to-month lease, and they're set with having to notice, all they're going to do is evict them. They just won't renew that 30-day lease. I mean, I don't know that this serves any sort of protection for those people that are in a 30-day lease. You know, I mean, it totally defeats the purpose and actually makes it even worse, possibly. The other thing is that if you've got people that are not following ULTA, adding more rules to people that don't follow rules, it's not going to do much either. I mean, if they don't follow the rules, they don't follow the rules. So again, I'm just kind of wondering what we're trying to do here. You know, if you've got people that have state compliant leases, whether it's a 30-day lease, a 7-day lease, a 1-year lease, those people should be exempted from this because case law protects them. The lease stays in place no matter who owns the property. They are protected. If they, what I was thinking that we were trying to do is protect those people that don't have a lease and encourage them to get a lease that would protect them. That to me would be more beneficial, but I don't know that this is going to solve any problems.
Thank you, Lady Johnson. Ms. Island, I'd like to ask a question real quick and call on myself here. Looking at the chart that Council Lady Allen put together, it says early termination of lease, 3-day written notice is Tennessee Code annotated 6628517. So if we put, if Councilman Taylor's legislation were to pass, with the state law saying that you can terminate any lease with 3-day notice, and then under that it's early termination of any lease, 14-day notice, and 17-day notice. The three citations are Tennessee Code annotated 6628517, 202, and 202 again. I'm just wondering, how does this legislation interact with if you can still terminate the lease with such little notice by the state?
Can I just interject that those are for acts of balance and non-payment only? That's not under just any old circumstance.
Okay. Better understanding. Thank you, Councilor Allen. Councilman Taylor on Amendment 3.
Right, yeah, so the goal is to add a few more protections. If you have 30 days to get out, this gives you an additional 30 and maybe more, depending on the financing. So this does add additional protection because right now we don't have people that are protected. I think you made a good point there. There are tenants that aren't protected by the ULTA law. And so this adds protection 52.2% of our city rent. And I've been trying to find the numbers of how many are on a month-to-month lease, and it's just really hard to find. But from my suspicions and conversation and research, nearly 10% of that 52.2% of Nashvillians that are renting are on a month-to-month lease. Therefore, there are several individuals that are not protected, and this bill will add some protection to those individuals.
All right, any more discussion on Amendment 3 at this time? Okay, I will call the planning roll on Amendment 3. So we are on Amendment 3 to BL 2022-24. Allen.
Yeah.
Benedict.
Yes.
Bradford.
Yes.
Cash.
Yes.
Evans.
Yes.
Gamble.
Amendment 3 by Johnston. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Just want to clarify.
Amendment 3.
Yes.
Paul. Murphy votes affirmative. Donald. Parker. Parker. Lost him. Rutherford.
Yes.
Styles. Toombs.
No.
Van Reese.
Yes.
Welch.
Madam Chair, this is Councilmember Stiles. I'm a no.
No.
Okay,
I'm a no.
We're on Council Lady Welch at this time. I'll come back to Council Lady Styles.
No.
Okay, Councilman Withers.
Yes.
Council Lady Styles.
No, Madam Chair.
Chair, this is Sean Parker.
Yes.
Sorry, my computer was acting up.
That's okay. Councilman, how would you like to vote on Amendment 3?
No.
Eight, 9. I have 9 yes votes and
Chair.
5 no votes in the Planning Committee. Council Lady Benedict.
Is it too? I meant to say no. That's my apologies. I was scrambling over here.
All right. So with that,
Also, I like to, if I could, also, is it too late? I want to change mine to no as well.
okay. I typically, once you announce the vote, it is final. That'll be the final change. So that puts the vote at 8 in favor, 7 against on Amendment 3, and it is recommended by Planning.
All right. For affordable housing, on Amendment 3, Allen?
No.
Hauser? Hauser? Mendes?
Yes.
Parker?
No.
Sepulveda?
No.
Sledge?
No.
Suarez is a no. Jones?
No.
Taylor?
No.
Welch?
No.
All right. Hauser's on the phone?
For some reason, I couldn't unmute. It's no.
So no, okay. So I have 9 no's and 1 yes from affordable housing.
All right. So do we have any further discussion or motions? Please raise your hand. Council Lady Johnson.
Can someone move my second amendment?
Sure, I will move Amendment 2. Councilman Withers, would you like to second that?
Second, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Council Lady Johnson on Amendment 2.
Okay, so this amendment just puts this into effect, whatever form of the bill, amended, substituted 100 times, whatever actually gets passed, it would put it, the effective date 365 days from that date in order, because most residential leases will be cycled through in that 365 days, because the last thing we want, I think, is for a bunch of landlords to be scrambling to change leases mid-term. It's just going to create a lot of unrest with the tenants. It's going to create a huge administrative nightmare for the landlords. And so I'm just trying to keep everything as calm as possible. So it's just a 365 effective date to let everything together.
Thank you, Council Lady Johnson. Council Lady Sawara?
Thank you. Question for Council Lady Johnston. I understand the need for the change in the language, but what about people that are already vulnerable right now? How do we make sure that, because I mean, the whole point of the bill is to protect individuals and residents. So that means that they will have to 365 days for this to be effective. So is there, I mean, I'm trying to figure out how do we reconcile that?
Council Lady Johnson.
I'm not sure I understood the question. Can you repeat that?
So the question is with regards to changing the form. So that means that the landlord will not abide with this until 365 days? Is that what this amendment is doing?
Council Lady Johnson.
Right. So most people with all of these leases that are in place anyway, the tenant is protected regardless. So are they going to be giving the 60 or 90-day notice that whatever we land on? I'm not exactly sure, but it would take away the need for landlords to have to go through and change existing leases in the middle of the lease.
Council Lady Zora.
Oh, thank you.
Council Lady Johnson, I still have you at the top of the queue. Do you still have, okay, thank you. Council Lady Gamble.
Madam Chair, as the sponsor of this bill, can I interject, please?
You are welcome to raise your hand, and I've got you in the queue. Council Lady Gamble.
Actually, my question may be for Councilman Taylor. I just want to be clear. The initial bill states that it wouldn't, or one of the amendments states that this wouldn't become effective until January of 2021, and that any leases in existence prior to that time would not be affected. Is that correct? Councilman Taylor to answer.
Yes, that is correct. So we haven't moved that amendment in planning. We moved that amendment in affordable housing. So yes, that is correct. So anyone that is that's in a lease currently now that will not have to renew their lease until after January 1st, 2021, will be able to I guess be grandfathered in is the best analogy I can use. Is they'll be grandfathered in to keep the lease as is as of now. When the lease will then need to be updated or renewed after January 1st, 2021, they will then have to add the language. I don't believe that this 365-day rule is best. I believe if we have a starting point as opposed to 365 days, I think starting January 1st, 2021, everyone then can roll right into the protections that we have, and then leading up until then, even if you sign a lease on December 31st of 2020, you have until a year before the new lease will take in effect in regards to how this bill would affect that lease.
Councilor Campbell.
So correct. So this would not change or alter any existing leases as it stands now with the amendment. This would not So nobody would have to, landlords would not have to redo or change any leases. The existing lease will remain in effect until they do a new lease, a renewal, after January 2021. So I'm not sure how this amendment is needed if it's not going to change, if this bill won't change any existing leases.
Can I respond to that?
Council Lady, no, we're still on Council Lady Gamble, and we can come back to you, Council Lady Johnson, while you're in the queue. So, Council Lady Gamble, you still have the floor. Any further comments?
That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. If you'll pull your hand down, Councilman Parker, on Amendment 2. Councilman Parker, you're with us. There we go.
Can you hear me now? I'm sorry, my computer is just acting all up today. I had similar input as Councilmember Gamble. It's my understanding that this wouldn't require folks to go back and sort of rewrite leases that are already out there. It's effective date. So I think that as it stands, addresses that, and I would probably vote against this amendment. Thank you.
Councilman Taylor.
Yes, thank you. Again, this bill, I think we've made it clear in the amendment 1 on this is that January 2021, January 1, 2021. That is if you are to move into a lease on that day, that is when this bill will take effect with those leases. But if you are to move into a lease or have a lease currently right now, there's no scrambling that will happen because you do not have to change a lease. There is no warranted excitement that should happen because their lease should stay the same as for the 365 days. I think that just continues to maintain vulnerability for the people that we're trying to protect.
Okay, before we go to Council Lady Johnson, I'm going to call on myself real quick. I will say that I have concerns that if the sponsor is considering a deferral tomorrow night, this has been deferred several times, we are getting to the point where it's less than 6 months to January 1st, 2021. On one hand, thank goodness, right? We are ready for this year to be over. But on the other hand, I do have concerns that that is a short turnaround for landlords and tenants to both know about these changes in the Metro Code and have leases accordingly and getting that out. And so for consumer awareness, I'm concerned that this is a tight turnaround. Now, do I know that 365 days is the answer? No, but that is better than potentially less than, I guess we already are at less than a 3 month enactment date. So at this point, I do have concerns about the current enactment date proposed by the sponsor. Council Lady Johnson.
So this amendment was sort of put in as a fail-safe because all of the protections that you have just mentioned where people are grandfathered in January 1st, 2021, all that's on the assumption that passes. If it does pass and those people are sort of grandfathered in, you're right, this amendment is not necessary and I would withdraw it. This is just, so this was written before I had seen your amendment that kind of did that. So again, this was a fail-safe. I hope you will vote to approve it just so it's there, just in case we have your amendment does not pass. But if it does pass, I will withdraw this amendment, if that makes any sense.
All right. Without any other hands in the queue, I'm going to call the vote of planning on Amendment 2. So Amendment 2 is the Council Lady Johnson's enactment date. So once I call the roll, if there's anyone who did not vote, I will come back to your name and then I will call the vote final. Council Lady Allen.
No.
Council Lady Benedict.
No.
Bradford.
No.
Cash.
No.
Evans.
No.
Gamble.
No.
Hager. Paul. Murphy votes in the affirmative. O'Connell? Kirk?
No.
Rutherford?
No.
Stiles?
No.
Toombs?
No.
Van Reese?
No.
Welch?
No.
Withers?
Yes.
So that's a vote of 2 yes, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 against. All right, so we are still in discussion on the bill. I've got Councilor Johnson in the queue.
Councilmember Murphy, would you let me take the vote on affordable housing before we move on?
Sorry, I forgot about you.
It's all right. Highland.
No.
Hauser.
No.
Mendes.
Yes.
Parker. Parker.
Is that Parker?
Yes, please.
No. No.
Sepulveda.
No.
Sledge.
No.
Suara is a no. Taylor.
No.
Toombs.
No.
Welch.
No.
So I have 1 in favor and 9 against. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Going back to the queue, Council Lady Johnson. It has come down. Councilman Taylor.
Yes, and I can definitely, if and I prefer this bill to pass. And if it does pass, and it's deferred, I can make an amendment to the bill to move it out a bit further to give, in fairness, some time for those property owners and landlords to make any changes that are necessary.
Councilman Taylor, if that's it, perfect. Thank you. Council Lady Allen.
Thank you. I just want to talk procedurally. If Council Member Taylor moves to approve tomorrow, and for whatever reason, Council Member Johnston's other late filed amendment is passed, then we're good to go. And if someone disagrees, then at that point we can move to defer. Is that correct?
I think Council Lady Johnson, are you planning on making a late filed amendment?
No, this is not an emergency.
When she's rules, that's right.
Council Lady Allen, do you have further comments? You are still on your mic.
The procedure. So that other amendment about the 100 is not going to be offered. That's what I'm understanding. I just wanted to clarify that. Okay.
Council Lady Zuara.
Thanks. And I'm sure you probably know, but I just noticed that the planning committee did not vote on Amendment 1 by Taylor yet. We did it affordable housing, but I don't think planning did.
We've not had a motion on that from a planning member. If a planning committee member would like to raise their hand to make that motion. All right, Council Lady Benedict.
Move to approve.
I'm sorry, could you specify, is that an Amendment 1 or are we on the bill as amendment?
Thank you. I move to approve Amendment 1. Thank you.
I will second that. And so we are still back to the discussion on Amendment 1. Seeing no hands in the queue, I will take the vote on Amendment 1. And we have Allen.
Yes.
Benedict.
Yes.
Bradford.
Yes.
Cash. Cash.
Yes.
Evans.
Yes.
Gamble.
Yes.
Hager. Paul. Murphy votes in the affirmative. O'Connell. Parker. Parker. We'll come back to Parker. Oh, got to Parker as a yes. Rutherford.
Yes.
Stiles.
If you can hear me, yes.
Yes.
Toombs.
Yes.
Van Reese.
Yes.
Welch.
Yes.
Withers.
Yes.
Thank you. That was all in the affirmative of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 in the affirmative, 0 against for Amendment 1. Any further discussion on the bill as amended? Seeing none, we will take, I will do the planning roll, which will be on substitute bill BL 2020 with Amendment 1 and Amendment 3. So with that, Alan?
Yes.
Benedict?
Sorry about that. Thank you. My vote is yes.
Benedict is a yes. Bradford?
Yes.
Cash?
Yes.
Evans?
Yes.
Gamble?
Yes.
Hager? Hall? Murphy votes in the affirmative. O'Connell? Parker?
I got on stage, so I'm not voting yet.
I'm sorry, Councilman Hager, have you joined us? Councilman Hager, would you like to vote?
I'm not sure what we're voting on right now, so I didn't sound right. I'm sorry. I'll abstain.
Thank you. I believe we were on Parker.
Yes.
Rutherford?
Yes.
Stiles? Stiles?
Yes.
Toombs?
Yes.
Van Reese?
Yes.
Welch?
Yes.
Withers?
Yes.
All right, so that puts us at 14 in favor, 0 against, and 1 abstention. Councilman, your bill is voted out with a favorable recommendation as amended with Amendment 1 and Amendment 3. So, Councilor Zuara, I'll let you run your next motion, seeing as it's different.
Thank you. Thank you. And so for affordable housing, we'll have substitute Bill 224 with Amendment 1 only. That is the bill as amended with Amendment 1 only. And so, Alan?
Yes.
Hauser?
Yes.
And Mendes? Parker?
Yes.
Sepulveda?
Yes.
Sledge?
Yes.
Suara is a yes. Taylor?
Yes.
Toombs?
Yes.
Welch?
Yes.
So Affordable Housing is voting 10 in favor to recommend, 0 against. The bill is amended with Amendment 1. Thank you all.
Thank you. And that concludes our agenda. And so with that, we will see you all tomorrow in person. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.